Hassan Rouhani, the Iranian president, has cautioned President Donald Trump to not take military action against his state after the U.S. leader threatened to pursue hostile policies against Tehran amid the decision to withdraw from the 2015 international nuclear program deal. President Rouhani addressed a number of Iranian diplomats after the Twitter showdown and stated that without peace between the two countries, which have been at odds since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, there would only be regret. Trump's threat to halt Iranian oil exports was scoffed at by the president of Iran, and he explained that the Middle Eastern state was in a dominant position in the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. But who is Hassan Rouhani? Hassan Rouhani, born Hassan Faratin on November 12, 1948 in Sorky, Iran. He is a Shiite Muslim and has studied at the University of Tehran and Glasgow Caledonian University, receiving a master's and PhD at the latter college. Rouhani was arrested a number of times in the 1960s and 1970s as a follower of Ayatollah Khomeini, the former leader of Iran, and in 1977, because of threat of a subsequent arrest, he left Iran to join him in exile in France, as reported in CNN. Between 1980 and 2000, after the Shah was overthrown, Rouhani served in the National Assembly for 5 terms, and during this time, was a member of the Supreme Defense Council, commander of the Iranian Air Defenses, deputy commander of Iran's armed forces and national security advisor to the president, to name a few roles. In 2013, he was sworn in as the 7th president of Iran, and soon after wrote a column in the Washington Post calling for a constructive approach to Iran's nuclear weapons program, having acted as Iran's chief nuclear negotiator from 2003 to 2005. In a dramatic move, President Rouhani condemned the actions of the Nazis during the Holocaust and had the first direct conversation an Iranian leader has had with a U.S. leader, at the time former President Barack Obama, since 1979. 2 years later in Vienna, a deal was struck that would see restrictions on uranium enrichment and research in exchange for economic sanctions relief, which Rouhani stated was a dream. In the same year, the Iranian president addressed the General Assembly of the United Nations, stating, "A new chapter has started in Iran's relations with the world." He also went on to mention that America and Israel are somewhat at fault for the rise in terrorism across the world. If we did not have the U.S. military invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, and the United States' unwarranted support for the inhumane actions of the Zionist regime against the oppressed nation of Palestine, today the terrorists would not have an excuse for the justification of their crimes, he said. A year later, however, Rouhani accused the U.S. of a lack of compliance with the nuclear deal between Tehran and world powers in 2015, and also discussed how the U.S. Supreme Court had undertaken illegal actions when they allowed U.S. victims of terror to claim nearly $2 billion in compensation from Iran's central bank. In 2017, Rouhani won re-election with 57% of the vote. After Trump's own speech to the UN General Assembly, he called for an apology to Iran for the offensive comments and baseless accusations after the U.S. president claimed the Iranian government masks a corrupt dictatorship behind the false guise of a democracy. Since becoming president, Rouhani has stated there would be no overnight solutions to the country's problems. While the nuclear deal may have ensured that sanctions were lifted, the benefits have been slow, as reported in the BBC. President Rouhani also pledged to free reformist opposition leaders that have been held without trial since 2011 and promised an era of increased freedom. However, activists and journalists remain in jail, and the number of executions in Iran has soared. In addition to this, censorship has not eased, and the internet is still tightly controlled. Hassan Rouhani wife President Rouhani married Sahiba Rouhani in 1968, and the couple have 5 children, the eldest of whom died in 1992. While she is not a political figure herself, she is known as a philanthropic one, and in 2014 constructed 10 schools. However, these charitable events have occasionally been condemned. In 2014, the Iranian president was criticized for what was considered to be a lavish ball organized by the First Lady, as reported by Reuters. Held in a palace, the all-female charity dinner celebrated Women's Day, which also coincided with the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad's daughter Fatima, a paragon of virtue. However, many saw this as the president indulging, while so many others were suffering amid the economic hardship. Trump Twitter in May 2018, Trump was poised to make his decision on the Iran nuclear deal after stating that it was too lenient and accused the Middle Eastern country of breaking parts of the agreement. After refusing to sign off on the agreement, he also called for sanctions against the Revolutionary Guard police force. Trump took to Twitter to issue a warning to Hassan Rouhani amid the looming sanctions against Tehran, after the Iranian president warned his U.S. counterpart to not play with the lion's tail. President Trump let rip to Iranian President Rouhani, "Never, ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious." What did Rouhani say, however? This only meant that Iran found his reaction passive and said that he won't dare launch an attack. Gen. Ghulam Hossein Ghaparvar, the chief of the paramilitary Revolutionary Guard's volunteer passage force, added that Trump's tweet amounts to nothing more than psychological warfare. He said, "We will never abandon our revolutionary beliefs. We will resist pressure from enemies. America wants nothing less than to destroy Iran. But Trump cannot do a damn thing against Iran." Although Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised Trump's strong stance against Iran and welcomed an end to world powers pampering the regime. Rouhani had earlier warned that Iran is the mother of all peace, before adding that war with Iran is the mother of all wars. "Don't play with fire, or you will regret it," he continued. "Iranian people are the master, and they will never bow to anyone," the Iranian president said. He also warned against any U.S. attempt to destabilize Iran by encouraging protests and said, "You are not in a position to incite the Iranian nation against Iran's security and interests." What did Mike Pompeo say? U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo hinted at such efforts while speaking in California at the weekend and promised backing for Iranian dissents as he referred to the country's leaders as a mafia. He also went on to dismiss Rouhani and the rest of his government as merely polished front men for the Ayatollah's international con artistry. Pompeo also announced that the U.S. government is launching a 24-hour television, radio and digital information channel in Farsi to broadcast American propaganda across Iran. The service would ensure that ordinary Iranians inside Iran and around the globe can know that America stands with them. In other news, free England shirts at Sports Direct. How to get yours? Bachelorette 2018 spoilers. Blake questions Becca's love for other guys in fantasy suite dates. Hassan Rouhani revealed after the Iranian president was threatened by Trump. What is Julia Roberts' net worth? This is why Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are likely to have twins. Mesut Ozil's net worth revealed after German team retirement. Celebs on the farm lineup revealed ahead of new 5 Star series. Who is Nicole Maines? Maine schoolgirl revealed after landing role on Supergirl. BTS and Converse team up for BT21 sneakers. Fortnite adds shark items ahead of Shark Week 2018. International AIDS Conference 2018. All you need to know about the summit in Amsterdam. Ludwig Sutherland. Google Doodle celebrates the German graphic artist Mega Day revealed after becoming the 2018 Big Boss Marathi winner. Shazam! Everything you need to know about the upcoming Worlds of DC movie. Who is 6ix99ine? King of New York rapper revealed after robbery in Brooklyn. Who is Maria Butina? Right to Bear Arms founder revealed amid US spy claims. Virgin Media customers to lose access to all 10 UK TV channels. George R.R. Martin's Night Flyers. Everything we know so far about the Netflix show Cats movie. Cast, director, plot and more. Who is Bristol Palin? Sarah Palin's daughter revealed ahead of Teen Mom appearance.